And welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is Pastor Carol with the Holy Advent Church in Clinton. Pastor Carol, welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Pete. Delighted to be here.
Thanks for coming down. So, Pastor Carol, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became pastor at the Holy Advent Church in Clinton.
Okay, well, I've been ordained now. I'm in my 38th year.
Okay.
And I retired a year ago from the Episcopal Diocese of New York and moved up to Essex, Connecticut, and was really just enjoying retirement a lot. And I had a chance to spend some time with the folks at Holy Advent, and they mentioned that they needed clergy. And so we talked about it and signed up, and there I am. So I'm the part-time priest in charge at Holy Advent, and I'm there 2 Sundays a month, okay, and about 10 to 12 hours a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And 2 Sundays a month just because of scheduling?
That and financial reasons also.
Gotcha.
I think, like many churches, many of the denominations now, clergy are number one, hard to find, and two, churches have become, I think, sadly to say, largely irrelevant in a lot of folks' lives, and I think certainly the pandemic only upped that case all the more.
Right. Now tell us a little bit about your clergy and about the church.
Well, the church itself is a delightful small building right across from Swan's funeral home on East Main Street. Lovely folks, very, very pleasant folks. And we, I think, have a very welcoming attitude, which for me is delightful, because a lot of places claim to be welcoming and you go in and realize they're not as much as open as you'd like them to be. And we are serious, I think, about worship. We're serious about marching to the gospel. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important point. It isn't just, I think some places, churches are more like a club, or maybe feeling like a philanthropic organization, but I think the people at Holy Advent really do take the gospel seriously, and so that's important. And it's I think sometimes can feel a little edgy, mm-hmm, because of that. I mean, Jesus didn't fool around. Jesus had some very clear directives that, right, I think sometimes can probably scare you. But right. I think if we do it the way in which he spoke of and certainly lived out, we could certainly work towards making this world a very different and better place.
Absolutely. Now, how did you guys fare during the start of the pandemic to where we are now?
From what I understand, because, excuse me, I wasn't there at the beginning, I was still right, working in New York at the time, that our bishops, whether it's in Connecticut or New York or any place, are the ones who really lay out a directive. And, yep, our bishops wanted to keep people safe. And so the point was the clergy could be in the church, or the clergy could be working from home, but doing Zoom. And I think, all of us became very good at doing Zoom church. And that way to keep our folks safe, but to continue worshiping, which was very important, rather than just dropping off the map for 2 years.
Right.
About, I guess, last fall, people started to come back in person. And we're still, I think we could do a little better yet. There are folks who I know are sitting at home in Clinton who have not returned to church yet.
Right.
And hope that will change. But otherwise than that, I was very heartened during Holy Week that we had a lot of folks turn up. Holy Advent has a number of snowbirds, right, who will, are just now returning, and so it's good to see more faces and more people at worship. It's been lovely.
Now, how many people can you accommodate inside the church?
Probably about 120.
Okay.
It's small.
Yes.
It's small. And we I think comfortably is 120.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys are a pretty busy congregation.
Well, if we saw 120 on a Sunday, I'd be delighted. We haven't seen that yet. But,
no?
No.
Have you come close?
About half that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So. we're working on it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And I hope as we get to know, or as I should say, as I get to know more folks in Clinton and have a chance to talk with them and talk to them about what Holy Advent's about and my vision for marching to that gospel that I mentioned, that people might be wanting to come check us out, and I hope that they would, and that would be Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock, and there's plenty of parking, and would be delighted to see a lot of new faces, and they would be welcomed.
Now, what do you want? Like you said, what if you want to tell people about Holy Advent and what it is and what you guys do? What would you tell someone?
Well, I think first off, if anyone has ever seen the property at Holy Advent, if they go behind our parish house, they see a very large garden, which is a community garden.
Yes.
That is operated by folks in the community, and they are growing produce to help out folks who are in need of good, healthy food.
Right.
And I'm delighted by that. I think that's a great mission to have, and I'm delighted that Holy Advent is involved in terms of at least providing the space and some financial consideration as well. I'd love it if more folks could turn up from our congregation and help with the working on Wednesdays from 9 until noon.
Okay.
I think that would be terrific. So that's one thing we do. I think another thing that we had been doing in the past and I'm hoping to bring back is I'm wanting to open up more for Bible study, open to anyone.
Okay.
And looking for some folks. Matter of fact, I got a call last week from a woman looking for a place to do Bible study and hoping that I can interest a few more folks. We have a Sunday school program on Sundays that for people who may want Christian education for their little ones. We have that. I think there's an opportunity to serve in the church as a Eucharistic minister. So at the altar, they're just, I think more of them now are more contained within. I'm hoping that we are going to find ways to be more of service to the community. And by that I mean, I think it's important, and what I'm trying to do, even in my newness there, is to be literally on the streets in Clinton, and listening to what the needs of Clinton are, rather than us telling Clinton what their needs are. And I think that that's a very important thing to do, that we bring back to the church the needs, and we find ways in which we can meet those needs.
Now, what do you think some of the needs are? What do you think?
It would be a guess. I have not heard enough yet. Well, I think there are people who, number one, who are still feeling a sense of concern, a little bit of fear about the pandemic, about COVID, and wanting to know, who are still, I think, hesitant to be part of a community. People who may have found that their faith was sorely tested during this time and want to know how they might really grow that faith. I think that would be something. I think there are definitely needs, maybe after school programs for kids who may be latchkey, who may need to find a place to reside after school, so parents know that they're safe until a certain amount of time each day. I'm open to whatever anyone has to say, that if it's realistic, that if it's scalable, I mean, it's something that we can realistically do as a smaller congregation, I'd love to do it. I think it's important to be of service to the people of Clinton. That's our job.
Now, how important is it for you to get out into the community and do community advocacy and just get the word out on the church, especially in the community?
That's number one on my must-do list.
Okay, well, let's talk about that.
Okay. I told the people when I interviewed there, the vestry is the organized body who interviewed me. One of the things that I used to do in New York when I was working there is I'd go in my collar to a local bar, and I didn't care if it was a dive bar or a regular bar, and I'd sit right up at the bar.
Okay.
And of course people would come over, they'd say, "Are you clergy?" And I'd say, "Yeah, I am." And it's amazing how people are like, "Well, I haven't been to church in a long time, but it used to be important to me." And they start talking, and so I started a group called Beer and Brew, and my young 20-somethings, we'd meet at a bar, different bar every week, and we just talk about our faith, or we talk about life in general, or our hopes for the world. And it, really was just a lot of fun. As I said, we'd grab a beer and a burger together, and so I want to get into being able to do something like that. I have to identify the bars that go to first. So that's
there aren't many.
Yeah, I know. So that's my challenge. But,
there aren't many. There's a couple, but there aren't many. But
But I think that's one of the ways, and I think it's disarming for folks, because I think clergy, oftentimes people, I think, mistakenly think that we're not approachable, or that we don't talk to folks or anything.
Right.
And I actually I'm a bit of an introvert, so it's hard for me to really want to come forth, but it's important, because if I don't do that, things don't change, and so that's what I really want to be able to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you did your Beer and Brew series, was it very well attended? Was it well attended? What was the feedback like?
Oh, the 20. My kids who had just graduated from college, so I had like 22-year-olds to like 30, 31-year-olds.
Yeah.
They loved it, because one, they thought it was pretty funny to be seen, sitting around in a bar with somebody with a collar on.
Yeah, right.
I thought that was pretty amusing. But also the fact that they could see that this wasn't a test of their faith or religiosity or anything. It was, how are you?
Right.
What's going on in your world? Any way I can be of help, even if I'm just an ear.
Yeah.
Or a shoulder to cry on. That's what I'm here for.
Absolutely.
So it was really, really well attended, and it got rave reviews, which pleased me. It's important.
Is that something you might want to resurrect or
absolutely.
renew in the town of Clinton?
Absolutely. I think it would be really important. I don't have as many younger folks in the church to do that with.
Right.
So I think what I'd be doing is kind of flying blind, and hope that somebody would come up to me and say, are you clergy? And I'd say, yeah. And I'd say, come on, sit down. And I'm Carol, and let's talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That sounds like a really cool,
yeah.
really cool program.
It's fun.
So did you like when you were in New York?
I was. I liked it a lot, and there was a lot to experience. My cathedral there, we all have belonged to, clearly a diocese, and the cathedral for New York is the Episcopal Cathedral, St. John the Divine in Morningside Heights, which, if people are familiar with it, it's the world's largest Gothic cathedral. And it's the second largest cathedral of any kind. Only the Vatican, St. Peter's, is bigger. It's the length of 2 football fields.
Wow.
And it's one of the most beautiful buildings, and I would highly recommend that if you haven't seen it, they started building it in 1892, and it still is not completed.
Wow.
But it's an exquisite building, and you feel a tremendous sense of the sacred and holy. So that's always been important to me.
Carol, would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Glad to.
All right, we'll be right back.
So you want to add a little curb appeal to your home, maybe add a new feature to a room? Here are some tips from Better Business Bureau to consider before starting a construction or remodeling project. Plan your project from start to finish and come up with a budget you can stick to. Home improvement projects can get expensive fast. Be upfront with contractors you hire about how much you can spend on the project. And don't forget things like eating out if you're doing work on your kitchen, or hotel expenses if you'll have to move out during any of the work. Talk to friends or family members who've had similar remodeling work done. Find pictures to show the contractor. Be clear about who is responsible for ordering materials. Up the value of your home. Remodeling a bathroom or kitchen can completely change the look and feel, not to mention it can help you sell it in the future. When you talk to potential contractors, ask them for examples and contact previous clients to inspect that work. Be sure to check out their BBB profile for reviews and licensing information. And if you own a business, get accredited.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with Pastor Carol from the Holy Advent Church in Clinton. Pastor Carol, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Pastor Carol, maybe we can open up the segment talking about the community garden and all the wonderful things that the community garden, that come from the community garden.
So, in terms of what they're growing?
Yeah, in terms of what they're growing, maybe how it started, if people want to get more information or maybe get involved.
In terms of growing, think of like every possible lovely vegetable that you would want. to be able, so clearly otherwise than squash and tomatoes and different herbs, lettuce, just all sorts of things that are healthy, that are, I think, really important for people's diets. Low calorie but healthy. I think that can be used, and they're very versatile, so they can be used in a number of applications, which I think is important, not just as a straight up vegetable, but certainly as part of a melange or mixed with pasta or whatever. So I think that's all really good. As I'd mentioned before, every Wednesday between 9 and noon, there are people over there working in the garden. Holly Richards is the overall administrator for it. And I think if they just go over there and wander through the gate and go in and ask for Holly, she'd be glad to help out and maybe even quickly put a hoe or something in your hands and put your work right away. So I think that would be the best way. If that's not something people are able to do, I would recommend that they call Church of the Holy Advent, leave a message. We will get back to the person and tell them exactly how to get in touch with folks, when would be the best time and all that, and be glad to help out with that.
Now, when after all the produce is picked and harvested after it's grown, where does it go? Well,
that goes out into the community and is distributed in the community. And I'm embarrassed to say this, I'm not clear yet where exactly that spot is. Again, still new.
That's
I'm going by what I've been able to tell from visiting it and from talking to some folks. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So when are services again for people that are just joining us?
Okay, so we used to be an 8 and 10 a.m. on Sunday. Since the pandemic, we're 10 o'clock only. And you can do it one of two ways. You can either come and physically be with us at the church, or if you, again, call the church office and say, I want to be able to participate, but I want to do it via Zoom. What we can do is we will send you an email with the entire bulletin for that Sunday service so you can follow along at home. So, but 10 o'clock Sunday. Yeah, it is cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Every Sunday?
Every Sunday. Every Sunday there's a service. 2 Sundays a month are what's called morning prayer, because we aren't doing the Eucharist, Holy Eucharist, every Sunday now. Under new circumstances. I'm there twice a month, and the other 2, or sometimes when it's a 5 Sunday month, 3, those 3 Sundays would be the morning prayer. Right now through end of June, it's kind of a mixed schedule. I can tell you that I will be there the 5th and the 19th of June. The 5th is Pentecost. If you're coming, wear red.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So June 5th, and then again I'll be the 19th. And then starting in July through December, I'm there the 2nd and 4th Sunday of every month. So, and then the 1st and 3rd are morning prayer. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's all on Zoom or in person, so either way it can be done. And there's music. We have an organist and hymns, and it's a lively, good time.
Now, if somebody wants to become a Eucharistic minister at the church, what's involved in that?
The procedure. Okay, so they'd get in touch with me, and we talk about why that's important to them, and then I would train them and get them licensed by the bishop. It's very, it's a simple process, but not as simple as just like here's a GLS or something. Yes, that train folks, and then they would sign up on a schedule so that they would have a regular rotation time to serve the church.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's a very worthwhile church.
It's another way to be able to do things. I mean, people have ways of doing things. They can teach Sunday school, or they could work in the garden, or they could work in the altar guild. The women who are on our altar guild are very dedicated, really terrific women who make sure that church looks fantastic week to week, and that altar is set with great reverence, and so that you get a tremendous sense of the sacred and holy when you're sitting in the pew.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there,
And
there are
I was
opportunities.
actually at the church. That's the first time you and I met. Very, very quaint.
It is. It is. It's an excellent word, Pete. It is. It's very quaint.
Very quaint and very small, but
Yeah.
very quaint and
Typical, early 1800s in a
Absolutely.
shoreline community. Even the stained glass reflects that.
Yeah.
You get a sense of you're at the sea.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So what other things do you guys have going on in the community with the church that we can maybe talk about?
Well, I think that's hard to say right now because, again, we're just really coming back
Right.
in full force from pandemic. And quite frankly,
We don't
that
know.
could change in a week.
Absolutely.
We could be back on the other side of, fully masked again,
Right.
and people may be reluctant to come into the building again. So right now, we're just, again, finding our footing, and the fact that I'm new.
Right.
We're sitting down and talking about what are ways in which we want to be able to be out in the community and,
Right.
as I said, listening to the needs of the community, and how can we, even though we're small but mighty, best meet those needs. So it's in process. I think that's the best way I can put it.
That's okay. It can be in process
Good.
with everything going on
Yeah.
in the world, especially now. But I'm sure you would much rather prefer to do a service in person rather than Zoom.
Yes.
Because
Without a doubt.
I am.
Without a doubt. And I also think, in keeping with, as you said, things within the community,
Yeah.
it would be very easy, I think, to come up with 2 or 3 things that we think should be done and do them, but that's really not the right motivation. And again, I think we want to take our time and be truly, truly listening before we jump at anything, because I would want it to make a difference.
Yeah.
I want it to last, not something that you do and say, well, that didn't work. I want people to see the value of what we're doing and to engage in that.
Absolutely. And if people want more information on the church, where can we go?
Okay, so you can go to holyadventclinton.org.
Okay.
Or call the church. And again, we'll send out any sort of information, but that's our website. Or call me directly. I would be delighted to speak to anyone.
Okay.
And if somebody would like a home visit, just call me at the church, make arrangements, and I'd be delighted to come to their home and talk to them about the church.
Absolutely. And if you were to talk to them about the church, what are a couple of the things you would tell them?
Well, one of the things, first off, is to really, again, go back to understanding what it is that they're looking for, and how we might possibly fit that bill, fill that need.
Right.
And so what we, again, being able to offer them not only services on Sunday, but Bible study, chances for, I'm going to be doing a reading group too. There's a book called Cracking the Church Open.
Okay.
That we are going to be reading and understanding really how the church has contributed to situations in the world that need some remedying. I think that the church has certainly played a part in our denomination. As I have said to people before, the Episcopal Church, when it first came to the United States, was the Anglican Church, and it was the church of the landed gentry. And it was a church that had a lot of money and a lot of people with money, and unfortunately what that did is it played right into the hands of slavery.
Right.
And the Episcopal Church has been trying to make amends for that for about 5 years now. And a number of churches have taken up different opportunities to work at that. And whether it's been the Living Stones Project, or reading this particular book, or Sacred Ground is another huge program that has circulated among many of churches within the Christian denomination, all dealing with the issue, are things that we'll be taking up. So,
Wow.
yeah.
guys are very busy.
We'll try to be.
You guys are a very busy.
I have to be busy in retirement. You know,
Absolutely.
That's it. So,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. We got a little bit more time left, so what's one or two things maybe you want to mention to everybody out there about the church? Obviously, you're a welcoming congregation.
Yeah.
If you guys want to come and see what it's about,
Yeah,
you can do that.
I would hope that people would want to come and just see who we are, and there's no obligation.
Nope.
It won't cost you anything
Nope.
except an hour of your time.
Exactly.
And you know that you might be kind of delighted to find that there's people there that you know, which would be lovely.
Right.
Or to be welcomed, or to feel a new sense, perhaps some renewal and. A deepening of your faith, I think, by the preached word that you will hear. And I think that that's an important thing right now. As I said, I've been very challenged the last few years at the irrelevance of the church in so many people's lives. I mean, the church is not like it was 50 years ago. It's not even like it was 20 years ago.
No.
And people have found other expressions of time. I mean, people do great amounts of volunteer work that they might have in the past done through a church, but they can just do that on their own, or they can belong to an organization, or they can give money to a philanthropic organization and do things that way. But again, and I want to go back to what I said at the beginning, what the church has, and that's every church has, that none of those other organizations have, that country clubs don't have, or other kind of clubs or organizations or philanthropic organizations, we have the gospel.
Exactly.
And there's a mandate in there. And it's a mandate that really not only invites and welcomes us, but I think also challenges us in the most beautiful of ways to become a different kind of person, to really open ourselves, to empty ourselves of our own narrow-mindedness or our own very narrow field, and recognize something which really falls into the category of all the major religions. All the major religions have something at the same heart, which comes down to do unto others as you'd want done to you.
Exactly.
And I think it's a way in which we can extend across miles, across pews, just even, you know, here between the two of us, ways in which we can say, how can we make it a level playing field for more people?
Exactly. Pastor Carol from the Holy Advent Church, thanks for some time, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you very much. I was delighted to be here.
Thank you.
I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. On behalf of Pastor Carol, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night, and we'll see you next time.